Hello and welcome to Moments of Truth on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes. Why can't people finally admit that Brexit is a success? Screamed the Express newspaper this week. Brexit peddling right-wing tabloid hack Ross Clark wrote, "The champagne may not be flowing, the cash registers are not exactly ringing. Nevertheless, the UK economy has once again defied the prophets of doom by failing to shrink in August." Failing to shrink. That's the measure now that the shameless Brexshitters who got us into this mess are now using to gauge success. We were told that our NHS will get £18.2 billion a year in new funding, on top of inflation. We were told we would keep our place in the single market. We were told we would improve fishing policies, leading to a boom, a fish bonanza. We were told that farmers and the environment would get more support. We were told that we had 40 trade agreements ready for 1 second after midnight once we left. We were told there would be a balanced shared prosperity fund that would tackle inequality and deprivation in each of our 4 nations. Those are direct quotes. We've seen none of that at all. So why are the party poppers going off in 55 Tufton Street? Why are there well-greased shills in the government and media making out like Brexit has been this massive success? Because our economy grew 0.2% over August. Meanwhile, our population growth is around 0.3% a year. So we're essentially standing still. And all the Brexiteers have is this. All the millionaires who told you to vote for Brexit, who live in their cushy London townhouses, all they have left is a shrug of the shoulders and articles appearing in the Express saying, "Cheer up, povvos! Oh, it could be worse." Have a look at the nominal GDP for the UK in 2007. It was around $3.09 trillion. Last year, it was $3.07 trillion. We have not seen any significant economic growth for 16 years, 13 of them under this Tory government. With our population growing by over 5.8 million in that same period, our GDP per capita has actually shrunk by over $5,000 per person, from around $50,000 in 2007 to around $45,000 today. To put that failure into context, $5,000 is almost the same amount as our GDP per capita increased between 2006 and 2007, over just 1 year of a Labour government. And the Brexshitters are looking at these miserable figures, squinting really hard and calling it a win. They're calling it a success. They're celebrating, saying it could be worse because the economy could be shrinking, even though, in real terms, it very much is shrinking. Our population has grown. Our economy hasn't. It's really that simple. But you see, the Office of Budget Responsibility, the Bank of England, and the International Monetary Fund all said that our economy would shrink, which in real terms it has. And if you look at the graph from a certain angle and ignore important metrics, it hasn't shrunk. It hasn't grown, but it hasn't shrunk. How wrong they were! In the topsy-turvy world of Brexit Britain, that's a win. Apparently, and this is a direct quote from the article linked below, the OBR, Bank of England and the IMF simply cannot bring themselves to believe Britain is not suffering. We are suffering. I know this may come as news to the right-wing millionaire privately educated scum that run our country and run our media, but the British people are suffering. Millions of us are suffering. 1 million children have been pushed into poverty. Almost 8 million people sit suffering on NHS waiting lists. People are working 3 jobs and still having to use food banks. People are forced to choose between heating or eating. People are seeing their mortgage repayments go up by hundreds of pounds a month. People are seeing their rent increase beyond what they can possibly afford. People are seeing their energy bills go up by hundreds of pounds a month. People are seeing their food bills go up by hundreds of pounds a month. And this privileged, snivelling little shit in the Express has the gall to sit there sniggering away in his oak-lined study, guffawing to himself over the mere possibility that the people of Britain are suffering, when the rest of us, outside that rarefied Kensington bubble, can see it as clear as day. He then postulates that we would have been in just as dire straits had we stayed in the EU. Explain then how next door in Ireland, which is in the EU, and with competent people in charge, they've seen their GDP grow from around $50,000 in 2007, when it was per capita, when it was pretty much level pegging with the UK, to well over $100,000 in 2022. It has doubled, more than doubled. Other countries, such as Germany, which has seen its economy grow from around $3.4 trillion in 2007 to way over $4 trillion today, may have seen slightly less growth, but they still grew. What percentage has the UK economy grown over that same time period? 0. A big, fat, embarrassing, impoverishing 0. It's worth pointing out that between 1997 and 2007, the first 10 years of the last Labour government, our nominal GDP doubled. And considering our economy failed to grow by a single dirty penny in the 5 years leading up to the pandemic, before COVID, before the invasion of Ukraine, before Truss's kamikaze budget, before anything else that Brexshitters want to blame for the state of our economy, the idea that we would have been in the same position today had we not voted to impose economic sanctions on ourselves in 2016 is absolute, dead set, ironclad, copper-bottomed bullshit. It pains me to know that the morons who read the Express will lap this up and think, I was right to impose economic sanctions on ourselves. If we had stayed in the EU, we would have been just as bad, and our passports wouldn't be blue, and our bananas wouldn't be bendy. As a direct result of Brexit, the pound has lost a quarter of its value against the dollar. We have put up trade barriers with our closest neighbours. Foreign direct investment has dried up. We've lost our AAA credit rating. Factories have closed. Our debt to GDP ratio has topped 100%. Our rivers are full of shit, and unlike every other major power in Europe, we can't afford high-speed rail. The government like to do a big song and dance routine over these pissant trade deals with countries you've never heard of on the other side of the planet, like there's some major win, when the reality is our economy would benefit more from a single half-decent British pop group going platinum. If this is a success, what would failure look like? A nuclear wasteland? The article ends with a little love note to Liz Truss and a ridiculous, unfunded, unresearched mini-budget. So we can hazard a guess at who paid for this article to appear in the Express. Almost certainly one of the ghoulish so-called think tanks based in 55 Tufton Street, London. Clark repeats that famous Brexiteer lie that their beloved Brexit isn't the problem, when it clearly is. It's that the government hasn't seized the opportunities of Brexit. Look, I am an incredibly well-travelled person. I've been out there. I've seen the world in detail like most cannot even imagine. I'm not joking. I'm not being mean. I'm not talking down the country when I say that these so-called Brexit opportunities are simply not there. They do not exist. They are not a possibility, geographically or economically. They do not manifest in reality. For the UK, there is very little out there in terms of significant trade beyond the boundaries of Europe. With a mere handful of exceptions, the rest of the world is, for us, an economic desert, a Harrods in the middle of a South American slum. I wish it wasn't so, but the vast majority of countries around the world that are not in Europe are relatively poor. They simply cannot afford the goods and services that we would like to sell them. But yeah, Brexit, roaring success, because our economy hasn't grown in 16 years, because the economy, our next door neighbour in Ireland, has more than doubled in that same period, because some toff in his ivory tower paid handsomely to peddle lies for the right-wing press, desperate to defend the truly miserable failure that is Brexit, thinks that the people of the UK are not suffering. Or maybe they are, and he doesn't think we're suffering enough. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.